10 foods that are considered healthy that is stopping you from fat loss and preventing you from making transformations just like I have. Once I was able to remove these 10 foods and identify them, my entire journey was so much easier. I was able to get to my result a lot quicker. I lost my love handles, my belly fat, and my chest fat. Not only have I experienced this, but when I made the same change to the thousands of clients that I've worked with over the last decade, they're finally able to see their results. Not only am I going to show you the 10 foods that are stopping you from being able to lose that fat, I'm going to show you better alternatives as a result. Let's not waste any time. I highly recommend you watch till the very end, because it could be this one single ingredient food that you're eating that is stopping you, and once you change it, it will allow you to break past that plateau. Let's not waste any more time. Let's move on into food number 1, and that is everybody's favorite protein source. It is steak. But let me explain. Steak is a superfood. In steak, besides its amazing protein profile, what's in steak that makes it a superfood is you can find iron, zinc, selenium, riboflavin, niacin, vitamin B6, B12, phosphorus, magnesium, potassium, and that's just to name a few. However, not all steaks are created equally, especially if you're trying to optimize for fat loss. We understand fat loss is calories in versus calories out, and you want to be in a caloric deficit. However, what's even more important is you want to ideally follow a high protein, moderate carb, and low fat diet, and there's definitely better choices that you can have from the 3 steaks. Right in front of you, we have 3 very popular steaks. We have a T-bone, we have a sirloin, and we have a top round steak. Now, let me compare them according to 200 grams. In the T-bone steak, per 200 grams, there's 494 calories, and per 494 calories, there's 31.86 grams of fat and 48.36 grams of protein. Now, comparing that to the sirloin, that's this one right here in the middle, there's 390 calories, and that's 16.96 fats, and that's 59.6 grams of protein per 200 grams. Sirloin has 55% less fats compared to the T-bone, and you can see that clear as day. The T-bone has more fats than the steak. Now, to give you a point of reference, for me to be able to be stage ready, I usually eat about 50 grams of protein a day. And to compare, my clients will usually go as high as 60, maybe even 70 grams of fat per day in terms of being able to reach their total macronutrient profile with fats. And then finally, we have this top round, which is the leanest cut of meat that you can get. And the macros for this are 4.3 grams of fat per 200 grams, 45.7 grams of protein. The top round has 86% less fat compared to the T-bone. But let me show you guys exactly what that looks like in terms of representation of total fat content. So we have our trusty scale and we have fat, and I'm going to show you again, all of them is according to 200 grams. So in the T-bone, we're going to have exactly 31.86 grams of fat. Now to measure that out, this 32 grams of fat, right? And that's all the fat that you're going to eat in 200 grams, right? Now for the sirloin, there's 16.96 grams of fat. So I'm going to get 17 grams of fat from here. And then 16, just a little bit more. That's gonna be 17 grams of fat for the sirloin, which is 55% less compared to the steak. 17 grams of fat for the sirloin, which is 55% less than your T-bone steak. And then for the top round, and this is the cut of meat that I'm eating at the moment, you have as little as 4.3 grams of fat. And this is what 4 grams of fat looks like. So this is exactly what I mean by being able to always choose a leaner cut, especially if you're going to optimize for fat loss. Now, I know there are people who are maybe on the ketogenic diet, and in that case, maybe going for a T-bone steak might be to your benefit. But for the person who generally wants to have a very balanced diet, I would always opt for the leaner cut. You still get the benefits from the healthy fats that you find in the steak, but you get to save yourself, number 1, all the calories, and number 2, you don't want to consume all of that fat. And to give you reference, this entire cut of T-bone, just so you know, is 459 grams. So in here is 1,133 calories. If I ate this T-bone, it is going to take me 23,000 steps to burn this entire T-bone steak off in terms of calories. And this, eating just this steak, is going to be equivalent of 4 hours of walking. So if I ask you guys, hey, you want to eat less calories and you also want to save your fat macros, scenarios, which one will you choose? The T-bone, the sirloin, or the top round? And my advice is whenever you go out to a restaurant, yes, always pick a steak. A steak is a better cut. But what you can do instead is you can remove the fats from the steak itself just to save yourself the fat. And sometimes I'll go as far as maybe dabbing up the steak itself just so that I can reduce the excess fat. I'll feel better overall. And always ask your chef or ask the person at the restaurant, hey, what is a better cut that's going to be reduced in terms of fat? Filet is also a better option, but this just goes to show you, if you're going out to restaurants, you're probably getting a T-bone thinking it's healthier, but in reality, you're always going to overshoot your fat intake by having the T-bone. Again, steaks overall are great. They're a superfood, but if you want to say, hey, which is the best one that I can pick that will save myself in terms of calories in versus calories out, always go for the top round or go for the leanest cut. And if there is no top round, then go for the sirloin. And then worst case scenario, T-bone, and try and get rid of the excess fats on the side. Let's move on into food number 2. Everybody's favorite cheat meal. This is Pizza Hut's famous pepperoni pizza. And this is what they consider a regular. Let's be honest, this is a small. Usually the pizzas you get is much larger, but I want to show you guys actually how many grams of fat is in pizza and why this will usually hinder you from being able to see your results. So you'll train and you'll do your cardio and you'll follow a diet the entire week. Again, for reference, for how I look right now, I eat 50 grams of fat. Every time I've done a competition prep over the last 10 years, I'm eating 50 grams of fat. In this pepperoni pizza, it's 900 calories and exactly 102 grams of carb, 36 grams of protein, and exactly 42 grams of fat. Let me show you what that looks like. So if I just take this pizza and I were to lay this over here and calculate what 42 grams of fat looks like, 45, 44, that's 43. 42 grams of fat in just this one pizza. And if I'm on a diet and I'm supposed to eat 50 grams from eating this pizza alone, I'll eat 84% of all of my daily fats. And this is what they literally mean: a moment on your lip, a lifetime on your hips. And to give you reference, and I'll just put it here to the side, that's all the fat that's within this pizza. And just so you guys can see what it will take to burn it off, in this entire pizza, it's going to take you 19,980 steps to burn this pizza off in terms of calories. And that's equivalent to exactly 3 hours and 20 minutes worth of walking. I could finish this in 3 minutes. It'll take me 3 hours and 20 minutes worth of walking to burn all these calories off. Now, I have my clients, when I do give them a refeed day, I'll say, hey, swap out your dinner. I'll give you a little bit extra calories and you can have it. And one pizza really won't ruin your entire diet. My clients have a pizza on the weekend, but the problem comes is if you decide to do an entire cheat day and you're adding things on top of the pizza, or you're having dessert after your pizza, or you are having cheat meals the entire day and you're over your fats by 100 grams, 150 grams, and then you wonder, you know what, I'm working so hard 6 days in the week, why am I not seeing results? I just take off one day. And the reality is, it's all mathematics. If you're 2xing, 3xing the amount of fats you should be eating, you're basically undoing all the hard work you've done throughout the week. My piece of advice is, if you're going to have a cheat day, don't do that. Have a cheat meal. It's gonna serve you for the better. You'll get your enjoyment, but still you would have made a better decision instead of eating the entire day. Obviously, this is everyone's favorite cheat meal, and I just wanted to show you guys so you now know next time you have a pizza, maybe go for half, or my recommendation is make a better version, a healthier version at home. You can pick better macros in terms of the cheese. The crust doesn't have to be that thick, and that's one of the things I practice with my clients. I show them healthier recipes. So throw this out, make your own at home, and you'll find yourself in a much better position. Let's move on into food number 3. Everybody's favorite chaser, or everybody's favorite energy drink, is the Red Bull. Now, let me tell you what are the macros inside one can of Red Bull. One can of Red Bull has 163 calories. It's not bad, right? That's 38 grams of sugar in 1 cup of Red Bull. And let me show you what that looks like. 38 grams in 1 cup. That's 31, and that is 37. It's a little bit more. 38 grams of sugar in this 1 cup. So every time you have this with your vodka, you're adding this amount of sugar. And let's be honest, who only drinks 1 can of Red Bull in an entire day? And this is what we mean by don't drink your calories. My recommendation for this is very, very easy. If you're gonna have a drink, if you're going out to the club and you're going to drink something, have your spirits and always go for a sugar-free option, and that way you get to save yourself on all the calories and you still have the taste. And even if the taste is slightly different, it's definitely not worth consuming all of the sugar just because you have this in the one can. So for everybody who's chasing this on the weekends or who needs a source of energy, I would rather go for the sugar-free version if you must. And personally, I do prefer Monster to Red Bull. I do get it, it's an amazing chaser, but they're equally as good chasers. And not only just Red Bull, think of all the other chasers you're using. Coke, go for the Coke Zero instead. If you're just using regular Sprite, go for Sprite Zero instead. All your hard work, you don't want to undo that by just deciding, you know what, I'm gonna drink the regular one. That to me is just a waste. I would rather go for the sugar-free version. And it's really incredible to see you're probably having about 2 to 3 cans of this. So in reality, that's about 80 grams of sugar that you're having, and you're just drinking that in literally 1 minute. Let's move on into food number 4. Before I share the next one with you, this one will be controversial, but hear me out. And this is only for everyone's betterment so that they can make a more clear decision. I'm not saying any of these are bad. I'm just saying if you're optimizing for being able to save your calories and to get the result that you want, then you can decide which one is a better option. And the next is going to be chicken, our favorite source of protein. However, we always get into the debate, what is the better source of chicken? And here we have chicken breast, we have a drumstick, and we have chicken thighs. So what is better in terms of trying to be able to hit your macros and also getting the results you want? Now, chicken is a great source of protein. Now, let me read you the calories. In a chicken breast, there's 114 calories per 200 grams. In a drumstick, there's 368 calories. That's nearly double the amount of calories in a drumstick. And then in a thigh, there's even more calories. There's 441 calories. Now, you may be asking, they're all the same. Where are those extra calories coming from? So let's go through that. In chicken breast, right, per 200 grams, they're all the same measurement. There's only 2.5 grams of fat. Let me show you what that looks like. Boom. That's 2.5 grams of fat. Actually, I'm gonna just make it 3 here. That's a little bit too much. 3 grams of fat in the chicken breast. What about in the drumstick? In a drumstick, there's 18 grams of fat per 200 grams. So let me show you what 18 grams of fat looks like. That's 19. In a drumstick, there's 18 grams of fat in the same amount. There is 6 times more fat in a drumstick compared to the chicken breast. But what about everyone's favorite, the chicken thigh? And in a chicken thigh, there's 35.3 grams of fat per 200 grams. So let's see what 35 looks like. And finally, in the chicken thigh, look at all the fat per 200 grams. So you tell me, 3 grams of fat, basically 18 or 35 for 200 grams, what would you choose? And this is why, if you're trying to optimize your overall calories and you want to save yourself on the fats, you need to make a decision if you want to just go for 2 or 3 grams of fat per 200, if you want 18 grams, or if you need 35 grams of fat. And this is why the other options do taste better. But this is my recommendation, and this is the trick. When you prepare your chicken breast, number 1, spice it well. And number 2, so it's not so dry, prepare it in an air fryer. I promise you, it is a game changer. You won't be able to tell the difference between a chicken breast and a chicken thigh. The only difference will be the skin. But if you prepare the chicken breast in the air fryer, it will be moist, it will taste amazing, and you just need to use the right spices. But you tell me, and I just want to show you this so that when you're trying to get into better shape and you're not getting results and you're eating chicken thighs, by simply making the decision to stop eating 35 grams of fat and then just rather go for the 2 or the 3 grams of fat, and you start seeing results. I was able to make this switch for so many of my clients, and all their efforts from the entire week, all the cardio, all the training, all the dieting, all the saying no to everyone, was finally paying off because they just decided, I'm gonna change the thighs for the breast. And this is why chicken breast is the staple in most bodybuilders' diets, because it will save you on all the fat intake. Let's move on into the next food. So you've gone on a holiday or you're out on a night and you want to choose something much healthier, and Subway is naturally the one that you'll gravitate towards. But the big question is, how much healthier is a Subway compared to all the other foods? Here we have 1 foot-long tuna sub and we have a foot-long Italian BMT. And in reality, both of their calories are the same. One has more ham in it, the other one has more tuna tuna in it. But the calories come out to be, for the footlong tuna sub, 890 calories. They both have 50 grams of fat. For the footlong, it's 960 calories, which is relatively the same. Now, in terms of their carbs, 76 grams of carbs for the footlong tuna, and we have 91 grams of carbs for the BMT. And finally, they both have the same amount of protein, coming to 40 grams of protein per serving. Now, I will say, yes, the protein is in our favor here, but as I mentioned, I can only eat 50 grams of fat. Maybe you can eat about 60 to 65, and usually when you're establishing a caloric deficit, you want to give 25% of your total calories towards fats. But let me show you how much 50 grams of fat looks like that is in one of these sandwiches. 50 grams of fat is going to be one big old scoop. That's 66. 49, 51 grams of fat in this one serving. And I'm just gonna put that here so you can see it. So if I decided right now, trying to get into the shape of my life, or even just trying to see my six pack, if I decided I was going to have a tuna sub, I would undo all my work for that particular day. All of my fats are gone. And that's why these aren't always the best options to go for. Now, if you ask me, Dr. Mike, what do I do under the circumstance? The first thing that I would recommend is try your level best to not add any sauces. The sauces tend to have a lot of fat. The second thing I would recommend is ask them not to add any cheeses. Now, I know that doesn't sound sexy, but we're trying to get our results. So usually Subway is a popular one and considered healthy, but because it has tomatoes and veggies doesn't mean that it's healthy and that it's going to get you the result we want. It's all in the end about macros. This is 1,000 calories. You could make the same version of this at home and literally save yourself all the fats. You can pick a better bun, you can pick better and lower calorie cheeses, you can use lower calorie sauces and save yourself all the effort. And this is why I highly recommend and why I make full day of eatings, so I can show you guys better options. But you tell me in the comment section down below, is that worth all of your fats? And is that worth nearly 1,000 calories? And you'll eat that in one sitting. And just for reference, it's gonna take you 19,000 steps to burn off this entire foot long. And that's equivalent of 3 hours and 10 minutes of walking. And again, you'll eat this in 5 minutes, and to burn it off, it's gonna take you 3 hours. So this is exactly why I tell people that cardio can be a waste of time if you don't have your diet in check. Because if I decided to eat these 2 footlongs, that's 6 hours of walking for me. It's not happening, and that's why you can never outwork a bad diet. Let's move on into the next food. Before we move on into the next food, let me know in the comments down below, what are foods that people are eating every day that is hindering them from being able to see their results? This is the part 2 video, and I made this video according to everything you mentioned in the comment section down below. So let me know, and if you want more of these, leave the video with a like down below. It will greatly support the channel, and I appreciate it, and I'm happy to make more of these videos. But let's move on into the next food, which is extremely common, and that is going to be extra virgin olive oil. Now, extra virgin olive oil is fantastic. It can lower the risk of heart disease. It can decrease your type 2 diabetes. It also has anti-inflammatory properties, which can help reduce inflammation in the gut, and it can also support your gut barrier function. Now, yes, having extra virgin olive oil is amazing, but this is a common mistake that I see so many people doing, including my clients. And what I'll do is I'll tell them, hey, send me a photo of all your foods. Now, what typically happens is you'll grab your extra virgin olive oil and you won't measure it. You'll just put it onto your pan, or you'll drizzle it onto your salad. And let me just show you what 5 milliliters looks like. That's 2, that's 3, and that's 5. That's what 5 milliliters looks like, right? Just that. But let's be honest, when you add this to your salad, or when you're adding it to your pan of food when you're cooking, are you really only adding 5 milliliters, 5 grams? This is 5 grams of fat. This is 45 calories. Now let's imagine that you are really tracking everything. This is your lunch that you prepared. This is all the olive oil you used for breakfast. Another 5 grams when you make your lunch, which will get us to 10. And then you add another 5 grams when you start making your dinner, right? And that's what 15 grams of olive oil looks like. And that's going to get you about 150 calories. And in all honesty, the biggest mistake I see is when my clients actually prepare their meals, they're actually using all of this olive oil in one meal. So 150 calories for breakfast, 150 calories for lunch, and 150 calories for dinner. And that's your entire caloric deficit undone by just this extra virgin olive oil. Now, there's nothing wrong with the olive oil. The problem is that it's very difficult to control if you're not really measuring it using a weight scale. So what happens is you're adding it to your avocado toast. You're adding it when you're making your egg whites. You're adding it cooking chicken breast, when you're cooking all of your foods. And then one entire week passes and you're like, why am I not losing weight? And the reality is that for every gram of olive oil, that's 1 gram of fat. And you're eating 15 to 20 grams of fat with just the olive oil. And that's what's keeping you out of a caloric deficit. So instead of using the drizzle technique, you can get olive oil spray. And if you just spray it, because it's so light, you don't spend any calories. Each spray, which is about 2 seconds, is 1 calorie. And you'll even get other Fry Light 1 calorie sprays. And when you make the change from using the drizzle technique on the normal olive oil and you go directly to using a 1 calorie spray, you'll just see your weight fall off. This is a very common mistake I see so many people make. And you can get your healthy fats elsewhere, but maybe you can just add a little bit to your meal or just use olive oil spray instead. And this way you get to save yourself all the calories by not letting your hand go and undoing all your hard work. But this is so common. And if you make this change, I'm sure that you'll start seeing results if you're hitting a plateau. Let's move on into the next meal. Eggs is another food that we consider a superfood, especially the yolk, which is very nutrient dense with minerals and vitamins that can benefit our body tremendously. The only thing is that we need to watch how much, and this is where too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. So we want to be able to hit our protein and also monitor how much fat that we're eating. So to give you an example, 140 grams of just the egg whites, there's 73 calories in here. That's 0.2 grams of fat, virtually no fat, 1 gram of carb, and 15.3 grams of protein. However, if we decide to have the 2 whole eggs with the yolk, in there is going to be 189 calories, nearly double. That gives you 11.2 grams of fat, 18.2 grams of protein, and 3.9 grams of carbs. So if you ever want to find yourself with a healthy balance of being able to control the fat content that you're eating, what I like to personally do is I like to have more egg whites, and you can use a carton, and then to still get the benefit of getting the cholesterol and all the healthy fats from the egg, I'll add 1 whole or 2 whole eggs to my entire meal instead of having 5 to 6 whole entire eggs, because you're very likely going to overshoot your entire fat content. And the meals that I like to make with a high amount of egg whites and eggs, I'll make an English muffin, I'll make scrambled eggs, I'll make toast if I need to, or I can even add it to my fried rice to be able to give it a lot more volume. The recommendation I'll make here, again, both of them are fantastic, but instead of having 5 or 6 whole eggs, what I recommend is just to have more egg whites so you can get more protein, and then just having 1 or 2 eggs so you can limit the total amount of fat content, but you still get the benefit from all the vitamins, minerals, and the healthy fats that you find in the egg. This is quite common, but I still see people at restaurants when they're going to a buffet at the hotel where they're eating 4 or 5 eggs thinking, hey, this is healthy, but the likelihood that you're overeating your fat content and then shooting over with your macros is so high. Something I like doing, if you get some boiled eggs, you can remove the yolk from 3 of them, make a bit of a mash, and then add that to your toast with a bit of light mayo. Amazing recipe. And sometimes knowing these alternatives will make the dieting process so much easier for you. Let's move on into the next food. This one is going to be controversial, but if you've ever dieted, you get to the point of diminishing return and it makes it very, very difficult, and that is peanut butter. Now, yes, peanut butter is fine to have in moderation. It's very difficult to, number one, have the self-discipline to not add more. And how many of us are truly putting this on a food scale and tracking it? So to give you a bit of context, in this entire jar is 2,660 calories. That's 224 grams of fat, 112 grams of carb, and 98 grams of protein. Now, per serving, which is 33 grams, it's 119 calories, 16 grams of fat, 8 grams of carbs, and 7 grams of protein. But in reality, this is just going to be so difficult to add into your diet. When you're eating 4,000 calories, great. 3,000 calories, you can stick to it. But when you start to be in 2,500 to sub 2,000 calories, these just won't serve you, even if it's for the taste. Now, a better alternative that I personally like is what is called powdered peanut butter, and it tastes amazing. Per serving of that powdered peanut butter, instead of it being 190 calories in a serving, it goes to 60. In those 60 calories, it's 1.5 grams of fat, you have 5 grams of carbs, and 6 grams of protein. You can't even argue the macros here. So for me, I just personally haven't felt that there's so much more benefit to having peanut butter in my diet. However, if you do have the fats and you do have the carbohydrates to be able to hit your macros, having a tablespoon of this is fantastic. But there does come a point where this starts working against you, very much like I was having Oreos, but it was so hard to just have 4 Oreo cookies. You would have the packet entirely. So when you can find better substitutes like PB2, same taste, same effect, maybe slight different, but worth it completely with all the calories, I will always go for it. And again, the point of the video is to show you better alternatives that is likely stopping you from being in a caloric deficit. This is just too calorically dense to see any results. And I'll tell you, when my clients are at 3,000 calories or 2,700, I will add this. But when we start going to poverty macros, this needs to go. Let's move on into the next one. Now, we all know that peanut butter always has its partner in crime, and that has to be jelly, and we always want to have that on our sandwich. But did you know in this entire jar of jelly, and the blueberry one, is 153 grams of sugar? And let me show you what that looks like. That's 100, 120, 140, 156. Just a little less, 153 grams of sugar. So when you're having your PBJ, you're basically having peanut butter and sugar, and that all in its entirety for the taste, probably not the best option. But this is what I mean about going into your local grocery store and seeing if there are better alternatives. Here we have sugar-free jelly, and just to compare, per serving, one serving here is 50 calories and this serving here is 10 calories. So you can save yourself 40 calories per serving when you go for the sugar-free option. And this is a common mistake that people aren't doing when they don't look at the labels of the foods that they're eating each and every single day. So I highly recommend go for a sugar-free option. It might taste a little bit different, but it's totally worth it, and it allows you to get into shape finally. And I would avoid wanting to consume all that sugar, because this will probably happen in the space of 2 weeks, depending on how much PBJ you're having or just how much jelly you're putting in your meal. But let's move on into the final food, and I promise you it's gonna shock. And last but not least is a salad. This salad here in particular is from a place called Chili's. But you may be wondering, you know what, I'm gonna go to McDonald's or to KFC or to any of these restaurants and I'm going to get a salad from there. It should be healthy. And I used to think that as well, until I did a challenge where I had McDonald's for 10 days. By far one of the worst decisions I've made in my life. But let me ask you, how many calories do you think is in this entire bowl, right? There's a lot of lettuce in there, there's chicken breast, there's a little bit of sauce drizzled on there. Looks good, right? Like this should fit in my macros, but the reality is in this very salad is 640 calories. Calorie for calorie, you're better off eating a Big Mac. A Big Mac has 550. And in this entire bowl, there's 46 grams of fat, 21 grams of carbs, and 39 grams of protein. I would rather go for the Big Mac. Let me show you what 46 grams of fat in a salad looks like. 45 grams. 47, 46 grams of fat. That's 90% of all my fats gone in a salad, which is shocking because most people are always gonna feel like, hey, this is the better option, and a week will pass because they've been getting a salad at a fast food restaurant and wondering why aren't they getting the results they want. Like, look at that, all of that in the salad. And the reality is there are 2 main reasons for this happening. Number 1, it's the salad dressing. As you guys know, salad dressings are heavily oil based. And then finally, the second thing people love adding to salads is going to be the cheese. So if you're going to go to the fast food restaurants or even to a restaurant itself, always ask them to have all the olive oils and all their dressings to the side. And what you can do is you can dip your fork into the salad dressing and then have your meal and take it that way. And that way you can save yourself on all the fats. But to give you another reference, the McDonald's Caesar salad is 470 calories. Again, that one is 23 grams grams of fat, which is much better than this one of chilies, 34 grams of carbs, and 34 grams of protein. If I had to choose between the salad and a Big Mac, I may choose a Big Mac because I'm gonna enjoy that a lot more for relatively the same amount of calories. So when you go to these fast food restaurants and you decide that you're gonna have a salad, if they can, let them give you the salad with the dressing to the side, and then try and get rid of the cheese that they put on there to save yourself on the fat. And that way, yes, you can maybe hit the protein. But something else that stopped me from eating McDonald's overall was the amount of sodium in those foods. If you ever go out and eat at a restaurant, if the food tastes really good, fat equals flavor. So always ask yourself, how much fat is in this meal? If you feel like there's so much flavor, tastes really good, ask yourself that, number one. And then number two, the next thing people put in is a lot of sodium, and finally a lot of sugar. Those are the three big ones that are usually added into foods that make your dieting process so much harder. My recommendation is you can make the same salad at home, save yourself the money, and also save yourself on all the fat content. But I just wanted to show you guys this, and the point of the video is to bring more consciousness, so you're aware, because I know a lot of people are busy, you're just grabbing things on the go and you're making decisions. This video is to help you to make better decisions when you're on the go and making decisions with all the foods you have. But I'll leave the video here. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. If there are foods you want to recommend, and I'm happy to make another one of this, just leave the video the gentle thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. I'll leave the video here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.